Hello and welcome to Jargus Ranger Reviews. This week we'll be looking at the 14th episode of Super Megaforce in the driver's seat. And this episode starts off with the sky being warped around. And Ghosty says there's an extra-dimensional alert from Corinth, which is the dimension that Power Rangers RPM took place in. But Ghosty tells the Rangers that he's not sure if they should go, because the Earth would be unprotected. But Troy says that the Rangers go where they're needed. And that's all the convincing Ghosty needs, because after that he just tells them to just take the skyship. So after they go to the wormhole to the other dimension, this machine monster closes it on them. But he sure doesn't look like he's from the Armada, that's for sure. And so he has his own soldiers with him called Grinders, and they need to get into the city to do some real damage. So they hitch a ride on a farmer's tractor, and he seems ever so calm about it too, which I find to be pretty humorous. So while they're flying, Orion is talking along with the other Rangers. And one of them says, yeah, we've saved the world so many times. And he gets a weird look because, yeah, his world wasn't saved. And he's like, nah, it's alright. I just wish we could have met sooner. But now I can stop any other worlds from becoming like mine. And I found a new home. So yeah, after about a month, he's finally become complacent. That's good to hear. And he seems a lot more calm about it, so I guess that's some bit of character development, but really we've hardly seen him since he had his first episode. So yeah, it's still not very much to the Silver Ranger. So our Rangers finally reach the city at night, and there's some kind of prototype car Zord just driving about at high speed. So they figure that it has something to do with their signal that they got earlier. But back on Earth, our mystery menace is starting attacking the city. And no one from the Armada has any clue who they are. They even wonder where the Rangers are in all this. So they go down and claim that they're going to be the ones to take over the Earth. Like both the Prince and his elite team, along with some X-Borgs. So they begin fighting each other over who gets to take over the Earth. But back in this other dimension, the Rangers are trying to get the Zord's attention that seems to be acting on its own. But it doesn't listen to him and blasts at its ship. But it mostly ignores them and blasts at the skyship. So then they figured, oh, it's like a wild animal, we'll tame it like one. So they transform into the Megazord and jump on top of it and use chains to hold it down. And the eyes it has start to close. Back on Earth, Ghosty recognizes our mystery as Professor Gog, and he tries to contact the Rangers. And he gets through, but only for a little bit, because the portal is closed and they can't get through. But now the Rangers know that they're stuck. But while they're fighting the Armada, Professor Cog is thinking to himself, they're pretty tough, but why haven't they taken over yet? Or they're just lame or incompetent? Well, they're not lame, they're pretty entertaining, so I think our Prince is very incompetent. Much to our amusement, though. And so this new Turbo Falcon Zord starts revving to get the Rangers' attention, since they can't figure a way back. And when Gia recognizes it's trying to give a message, it flies up and opens its own hole back to Earth. And so of course the Rangers return right away. And Vecca of our people says, it's about time you take him down already. So he runs off to the side with his little posse. And they make a plan to just let him have some X-Borgs and join the fight and take out the Rangers together. And then they'll finish him off when the Rangers are gone. Yeah, that'll work. Does that kind of plan ever work in Power Rangers? So the Rangers all become the RPM mode Rangers, or in the case of Orion, his silver and gold form. And as soon as he recognizes that they're RPM Rangers, he tells them all, quick, protect me! He even orders the X-Borgs to fight for him. But they're all taken down pretty effortlessly. And back in the Super Mega forms, they use their new Super Mega Cannon from last week to destroy him. Except much to Lavera's surprise, he can grow big on his own. And Ghosty tells the Rangers that the new Zord wants to fight, so let it join ya. So it makes it through a portal on its own, and it merges with the legendary Megazord. And by merging, I mean it just stands on top of it, so it can zoom around while fighting, still using the two pirate swords, of course. And so the finishing strike with this is the legendary RPM Grand Prix. And that is a huge mouthful to say. But pretty much just one of the swords glows and it slashes down from above and it just finishes him. We didn't really get to see much of this fight except for it zooming around a bit. Well, I guess it should since it's like a race car. And while he dies and explodes, he says, I said I want you to fight me, but not beat me. Well, if you fight the Power Rangers, what do you expect? You ain't gonna live through it, most of the time. And so our Zord returns, and the Rangers say goodbye to it. But they're out in the middle of nowhere, so they're thinking, how do they get home? Well, they see our old tractor farmer going by, and they try to hitch a ride, but he ain't falling for that again, and he just keeps on going and ignores them. So the Rangers has to do nothing but walk home. Couldn't they get some help with Ghost Save from this? I mean, he warped them all to the command center in the first episode. And on the way, Jake, since he always makes a fool of himself, steps in some mud and complains about his new shoes and they all laugh at him. And that's the end. Overall, this is a pretty different episode. It's rare in any season of Power Rangers you see the antagonists fighting each other. And oftentimes when they do, it's within their own ranks, not two separate factions. So this made a glorious return for that. And so that was most entertaining to watch. Wish we could have seen more of that in this episode. But the parts with the Turbo Falcon Zord was actually not that interesting. I mean, the parts with Orion was pretty good. But really, they just chased it for a while and then jumped on top of it and then they were right back to normal. But one thing I noticed about this episode that I'm finally glad of is that they only used their Super Megaforce forms. They did not go to the Megaforce suits once the whole episode. It took over half the season, but they finally got it right. So I guess this episode gets a B. It was definitely fun seeing like Professor Cog and like a new type of antagonist. Even if it was short-lived. One that was a little bit different than Vedkar and the rest of the Armada. He seemed kind of laid back, but he was confident in his abilities, which was good to see, rather than just have one that's serious or one that's overpowered. And we also have a new for Megazord, which is always fun to see, and who knows what we'll see next time. So overall, this wasn't a bad episode. It's definitely kind of fun to watch. That's all for this time. I'll see you next week for the new episode. Till then, I'm Jargus Ranger, thanks for watching. Let the power protect you.